In a crowded room, sometimes no one even hears your footsteps. And yet, in the quietest way, something shifts. The tension softens. Voices slow down. Someone exhales, gently, not even realizing why they suddenly feel lighter. That's how your energy touches the world, Cancer. You don't walk in to claim attention. You walk in, and you carry safety with you. Not the loud kind of safety, not the kind that demands to be noticed, but the kind that makes someone feel understood, even before they finish their sentence. People sense it before they can explain it. They find themselves wanting to share a little more, stay a little longer, open up, just a little further. Your presence is like a soft golden lamp on a long, quiet evening. Not blinding, not dramatic, just warm enough for someone to sit down and finally be themselves. There are those who deeply appreciate that about you. Because in a world full of noise and judgment, very few people truly listen with their whole heart. You remember the details others overlook. You notice when a smile is only a thin layer. You feel the sadness behind words that sound ordinary. But that same sensitivity is also what makes you misunderstood. Some say you're too sensitive. Some think you overthink. They see the softness, but not the strength holding it together. And they see the surface of the water, but they never look deep enough to see the ocean beneath it. The truth is, to feel that much, you had to learn how to face your own emotions first. You don't run from sadness. You don't deny hurt. You allow yourself to move through long nights without pretending you're unshaken. And that is where your quiet strength is built. Your heart is not fragile. It's a heart that has broken, mended, and chosen to open again even knowing the risk is still there. So every time you decide to keep believing, keep caring, keep loving, that isn't weakness. That's courage. Cancer, you carry the ability to calm tired souls. You remind people they don't have to stay guarded all the time. You show them that kindness still exists, that caring isn't outdated, that depth still matters. In a culture that glorifies speed and achievement, you stand for something deeper, real connection. Not everyone will recognize the value of that. Ian, there may be moments when you wonder if you should shrink yourself, just to be misunderstood less. But every time you steady a confused heart, every time you patiently sit beside someone who feels lost, you make this world a little less cold. And maybe the most beautiful part is this. You don't do it for applause. You do it because it's who you are. You don't have to be dazzling to shine. You just have to be real. When you walk into a room, not everyone will see you right away. But the ones who are searching for safety, they will feel you. They'll turn towards you instinctively, because your heart is like a quiet lighthouse, not calling out, not chasing attention, just standing there, steady, constant, radiating light. And when you begin to realize that your gentleness is not something to shrink, but something to honor, something inside you shifts, not to become someone else, but to walk with a deeper confidence. Or because once you truly understand the value of the care you bring into this world, you stop worrying about the looks that don't understand you. You keep listening, you keep caring, but now with a clearer inner peace. And in that peace, a new strength is forming. A strength not only born from a heart that feels deeply, but from a heart that knows how to protect itself too. There are things you do that no one records, no one applauds, no one names out loud. And you place a hand on someone's shoulder at the exact moment they need it. You send a simple text, just to ask if they're okay today. You quietly remember a small detail they mentioned months ago, and then bring it back at precisely the right time. To you, it feels as natural as breathing. But to the person receiving it, sometimes that small act is the thread that pulls them through a day that felt unbearable. Cancer loves through small things, not grand gestures, not dramatic promises. You love through steady presence, by staying when someone feels overwhelmed, by not walking away when the conversation gets uncomfortable. You notice the shift in their tone, the flicker in their eyes, the silence that lingers a few seconds longer than usual, and you move closer, not to control, but to support. Many people may never tell you this, but your devotion has touched them more deeply than you realize. They trust you because you don't just listen with your ears. Well, you listen with instinct. You hear the space between the words. And in a world where everyone is rushing to speak, that kind of listening is rare. Still, sometimes that very gift gets misunderstood. Some say you care too much. Some assume that if you give this much, you must be expecting something in return. They're used to clear exchanges, balanced scales. They believe that if someone invests time and emotion, there must be a hidden expectation behind it. But for you, love is not a contract. You don't keep score of how many times you checked in. You don't log the nights you stayed up late listening to someone unravel their heart. You give because that's how your heart works. You care because if you didn't, you would feel like you were betraying a part of yourself. There are nights when you lie awake and wonder, am I giving too much? Does my quiet consistency make people assume I'll always be available, always enduring, always strong? And yes, there may have been moments when you felt tired, when your care was not fully seen. But remember this, the value of what you give is not determined by how others interpret it. A seed does not need applause the moment it's planted. It grows quietly, beneath the surface. The care you send into the world may be changing someone in ways you will never fully know. Cancer. Your heart was not designed to stay closed. It was made to touch, to connect, to nurture. But loving does not mean losing yourself. Giving does not mean having no boundaries. When you learn to open your heart and protect your energy at the same time, your care becomes clearer, stronger, no longer mixed with silent self-sacrifice. There is a rare beauty in the way you love. It's the beauty of consistency. You don't change how you treat someone just because they're struggling. You don't turn away when things get complicated. You stay. And sometimes, staying is the bravest act of all. Over time, when you look back, you'll realize something important. People trust you not because you're perfect, but because you're real. You don't pretend to care. You truly care. And that leaves a lasting imprint on people's hearts, even if they never say it out loud. There may come a time when you become more selective, when not everyone has access to your open door, but your sensitivity, your quiet devotion will still be there, like a deep current beneath the surface. And when you finally allow yourself to receive the same care you so naturally give, something new begins to form. You are no longer just the one who holds others up. You become someone who is held too. And when you begin allowing yourself to receive the care you truly deserve, something deeper starts to reveal itself. It's the way you face your own emotions, without decoration, without avoidance, without putting on armor, just to make the world more comfortable. Cancer. There are people who genuinely admire the way you feel things with your whole being. You don't walk past sadness as if it doesn't exist. You pause, you sit with it, you listen, you allow yourself to touch the grief, the disappointment, the wounds that haven't even found words yet. In a culture that teaches us to be strong quickly, to bounce back fast, your slowness is a rare kind of courage. You don't pretend you're fine when your heart is trembling. Well, you don't laugh loudly to drown out long nights of thinking. You allow yourself to say, I'm hurting. And that, even if it looks fragile on the surface, is a deeply mature strength. Because only when someone dares to look directly at their emotions can they truly understand where they stand. Still, that honesty can make some people uncomfortable. They're used to walls. They're used to hiding feelings behind short answers and polite nods. When they stand in front of a heart that isn't guarded, they don't quite know what to do. Your clarity forces them to notice things they've tried to forget. Some say you're too sensitive. Some assume you're easily affected. But your sensitivity is not weakness. It's awareness. It's the ability to sense subtle shifts that others miss. You feel the change in the room. You notice when someone is pretending to be okay. You understand that anger often hides unhealed pain. And that kind of sensitivity doesn't make you small. It makes you deep. It allows you to connect in ways surface-level relationships never could. You're not satisfied with empty conversations. You look for meaning. You look for truth beneath the surface. And maybe that's why there are moments when you feel like you don't belong in places that are too loud, too rushed, too shallow. You need space to breathe, to feel, to sort through what you've experienced. And in that quiet, you restore yourself. You don't explode. You heal quietly, like the moon growing full night after night, even when no one notices. Cancer. You don't choose depth because it's dramatic. You choose it because you know surface living doesn't nourish the soul. You choose sincerity, even if it means you'll sometimes be misunderstood. Look closer, though. The people who truly value you are the ones who feel understood when they're around you. They feel permission to be themselves. They don't have to perform strength. They don't have to hide their broken pieces. Your presence gives them the right to be soft, without shame. And in a world that often treats emotion as something to control, you are quietly reshaping how vulnerability is seen. You show that sensitivity is not a burden, it's a bridge. It's a compass that points toward empathy. When you realize that your emotions are a resource, not an obstacle, you begin walking differently. You stop apologizing for feeling deeply. So you stop shrinking your heart to fit into other people's comfort zones. You stand steady in your gentleness. And from there, a new kind of strength begins to form. Not loud, not showy, but enduring. The strength of someone who knows what they feel, who knows what they need, and is no longer afraid to face either one. The strength of someone who knows what they feel, who knows what they need, doesn't stay hidden inside forever. Over time, it shows up in the way you stand up for what you love. And not with a raised voice, not with dramatic declarations, but with steady presence, with quiet certainty. Cancer doesn't protect loudly. You don't need the world to know what you're sacrificing. You don't keep score. You don't advertise your loyalty. You simply adjust your position. So the person you love feels a little safer, a little less unsteady. You are there when they need support, there when they fall, there when everyone else has already walked away. Your presence is not temporary. It's not a gesture. It's a quiet commitment. And the ones you've lifted up will remember that feeling for a very long time. The feeling of being protected without being made small. The feeling of being defended while still being respected. Still, not everyone understands the way you love. Some look at your care and call it overprotective. Some feel you're too attached. They're used to lighter connections. Relationships without depth, without roots. Even when they see you watching closely, reminding, caring, they may assume you're trying to control. But the truth is, you don't protect to possess. You protect because you value. You don't hold on because you're afraid of losing. You safeguard because you understand what something is worth. There's a natural instinct in you to shield what's fragile from the cold winds of life. Maybe that's because you know what it feels like to be hurt. You understand the ache of having no one stand beside you. And because you've felt that, you don't want the people you love to walk through the dark alone. So you stand next to them, sometimes even before they realize they need someone there. Your care is not a chain, it's an open embrace. But to see that clearly, someone has to be mature enough to tell the difference between control and care, between possession and loyalty. Cancer. Your loyalty is not loud, but it runs deep. You don't hand out trust easily. But once you give it, you guard it like something sacred. And sometimes, because you guard it so carefully, you forget that not everyone knows how to honor that kind of devotion. There will be moments when you learn to step back just half a step, not because you love less, but because you understand that protecting someone doesn't mean carrying everything for them. You begin to see that the people you love also need space to grow, to face things, to become stronger on their own. Whilst that adjustment doesn't weaken you, it makes your love wiser. You're still there, but you don't block every storm. You still care, but you don't control every step. And in that balance, your love becomes healthier, freer. Those who are perceptive enough will understand that being protected by you is a gift, not because you are stronger than them, but because you chose to stand beside them. And when you stand beside someone, you stand with your whole heart. Gradually, when you come to realize that the most precious thing isn't holding someone inside your arms, it's creating a space safe enough that they can return on their own. And when you begin to see your protection as a foundation instead of a cage, a new way of loving opens in front of you. And when you begin to understand that protecting someone doesn't mean holding them tightly, something else inside you begins to come into the light. It's the way you face loss, the way you stay with memories longer than people expect, the way you don't just walk away as if nothing ever mattered. Cancer doesn't leave easily, not because you're afraid of being alone, not because you're too weak to begin again, but because you understand the value of connection. To you, a relationship is not a temporary stop. It's a journey woven with time, with memories, with moments that were real. You don't see people as replaceable options. When someone once mattered to you, then they leave a mark. And you don't erase that mark just to prove you're okay. You respect what was. You allow the memory to exist, not to hold on, but to honor. Some people admire that. They see in you a rare kind of loyalty. They know that if you choose to stand beside them, you don't show up halfway. You don't love on the surface. You love in full depth. But others don't understand why you need time to heal. They live fast. They believe that if one door closes, another must open immediately. When they see you still feeling, they call it attachment. When they see you not ready to move on, they call it being stuck. What they don't realize is that you're not staying in the past because you're weak. You stay because you respect the meaning of what once existed. You don't want to dismiss the days you lived through. You don't want to pretend your heart didn't once tremble. For you, healing is not forgetting. Healing is understanding. It's sitting with the feelings that remain, listening to them, and gently placing them in a new space inside your heart. You don't force yourself to stop hurting on a schedule. You let the process unfold naturally, like the tide rising and falling in its own rhythm. Cancer. Your slowness is not delay, it's maturity. You know that if you don't truly close the old chapter, you'll carry it into the new one, and you refuse to build a future on something unfinished. There may be nights when you ask yourself, am I holding on too long? But then you realize the fact that you still feel means your heart is still alive, and a heart that can still ache, that can still remember, is a heart that can still love. You don't let go easily because you understand that every relationship is part of your growth. Even when it ends, it teaches you something about yourself, about your boundaries, about your worth. You don't erase the lesson just because it hurt. That gradually, as you learn to keep the memory without letting it hold you back, a new freedom appears. You no longer feel the need to prove to anyone that you've forgotten. You simply move forward when your heart is truly ready. And in the moment, you realize that loyalty to the past doesn't mean being trapped in it. You begin to sense a wider sky ahead, not because you changed who you are, but because you've learned how to love deeply without losing yourself. And when you begin to understand more deeply how to love without losing yourself, you start to look back at something that has followed you for years, the way people see your softness, the way they rush to conclusions when they notice how gentle you are, how attentive, how steady, how emotional. Some glances suggest you're too fragile. Some words imply you're too kind, too yielding, too delicate for a sharp-edged world. But they're only looking at the surface, and they've never seen the current underneath. Cancer is not just a calm lake. You are also the tide. There are moments when you pull back, not because you're afraid, but because you're observing. There are times when you stay silent, not because you don't have a voice, but because you understand the power of timing. You don't need to react instantly to prove you're right. You are steady enough to wait. Your retreat is not failure, it's strategy. When the strategy of someone who understands the value of the energy they carry. You choose when to move forward. You choose when to pause. And that choice comes from inner strength, not weakness. There's something most people don't realize. To live with an open heart in a world where people hurt each other without meaning to takes enormous courage. You didn't close yourself off just because you've been hurt before. You didn't freeze your emotions just to avoid feeling pain again. You kept caring. You kept believing. You kept loving. That isn't naivety. It's a conscious decision. You know the risks are real, but you refuse to let fear dictate how you live. And that's why your care doesn't come from dependency. It comes from maturity, from choice. Cancer. You are not as small as some people assume. You simply don't choose noise to express your strength. You don't need to tense yourself to be recognized. Your inner power is like the ocean at night. On the surface, it may look calm, but beneath it is an entire ecosystem, vast, alive, powerful. There will always be people who don't understand that. They measure strength by volume, by speed, by dominance. They don't realize that your patience is power, that your empathy is influence, that your emotional steadiness is solid ground others can lean on. So, yes, You are both admired and misunderstood. Those who see depth will respect you. Those who only see the surface may doubt you. But you don't have to reshape yourself to fit their vision. Living with an open heart is an act of bravery. It requires you to accept that not everyone will understand. Not everyone will appreciate you right away. And still, you choose openness. Because that's how you keep your soul alive. When you finally recognize that your gentleness is your strength, a quiet confidence begins to spread within you. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself. So, you no longer feel compelled to defend your nature against every opinion. You understand that what you bring into this world is not noise, it's healing. And in the moment you stand firmly inside your softness, you become living proof of something powerful. Strength doesn't always have to be sharp. Sometimes, it only needs to be deep enough not to be swept away.